It's your Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, March 6th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is extremely happy for Scott Laughton getting that goal in his 500th game.
Yeah, well earned. He's been around a long time. It's nice to see.
Exactly. We're going to get into the Flyers' win against Detroit. We're going to talk about shifting goals for the team now that trade deadline is passed. And of course, it's Monday, so we will have our Nemesis of the week.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who is on Twitter at Sportsology. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Flyers. That is where we post the latest about our episodes and Flyers news. You can email the show at lockedonflyers@gmail. We will be having a mailbag this week, so get those Flyers questions in. Locked On Flyers is free and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. So subscribe. You'll get all of our episodes here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Plus, we're over on YouTube, so subscribe there as well. So, Russ, I think, now that the dust has sort of settled a little bit from the trade deadline drama, I mean, we're still going to feel the effects, don't get me wrong. But, we've still got some games to play for this season. And the Flyers got a win against Detroit, who had also been sort of last minute sellers at the trade deadline. And I think, the story of this game was, one new guy and the return of an old guy or a younger old guy, I guess.
Yeah.
So we had an 11-7 lineup again with the return of Tanner Laczynski taking the Patrick Brown slot, as
hmm
we talked about last week. And the first game with Brendan Lemieux in the lineup.
So, a lot to unpack there. I still don't believe in the 11-7. The 11-7's dumb. It's taking away development time away from a young player and putting an old Justin Braun in. If this is progress, then I don't understand what progress is. Uh, Lisinski, I thought, had a good game. Like he looked good. Yeah, he's not in shape. I mean, George said that after. Obviously, he hasn't played since December 5th. So,
Right.
like, I get it. He'll get in shape, but he looked good. He had some chances, a couple scoring chances. So I liked what I saw out of that. Um, as far as Brendan Lemieux, I would have zero interest in signing him for next year. Sure, he made some plays, whatever. This is a bad team with a guy who has a bad temper. And again, I know the thought will be, well, we could sign him to a 1-year deal for like 1.2 million. And it's like, yeah, how many of these guys do you want? Like you have to get away from this. You're not gonna, I mean, again, unless you're look, Brendan Lemieux is fine if you're a last place team and those are your aspirations. So if that's the case, then I get it. If it's not, then yeah, whatever. He's going to be on his best behavior. You don't want him on a team with Tony DeAngelo. Trust me, I saw that with the Rangers. It was bad news.
No.
You don't want any of that. So what you're going to see in this 19 games is the guy on his best behavior, trying to keep his NHL career going. And look, I'll talk about the play on the ice. That's fine, but I would have no interest in signing him.
Yeah, there's a very good reason why the LA Kings, wanted to throw him in
Correct.
this deal for Zach McEwen when the Flyers really only asked for that 5th round draft pick and the Kings
Right.
said, "No, take Brendan Lemieux too."
Right.
Like there has to be a good reason for it. So I'm absolutely with you there. But yeah, let him have his little audition
Yeah.
for playing time, whether, he's trying to impress the Flyers or he's trying to impress other teams around the league to try and
Correct.
get another 1-year deal next year. That's, that's fine for him. I have
Mhm.
no problem with him having the ability to be able to do that. But I also think you're right about Tanner Laczynski. He definitely was like a little gassed there by the end of the game,
Sure.
but he had some good moments and I really look forward to seeing what he can do. But I also think that he needs to have like a real line, like
I know.
a real 4th line if he's going to be that center. I want to give him the opportunity to have consistent line mates. And, one of the guys that we really didn't talk about the effects of trade deadline on last week was Kiefer Bellows. And, they kept him up. He's not allowed to go back down to the Phantoms at this point for the remainder
Right.
of that season. So to have him sit in the press box when you could have like a regular lineup out there and give him a chance to at least create some potential opportunities with other teams. Again, just like Brendan Lemieux,
They don't
like do the
care.
kid
Torts
do
doesn't
the kid a
care.
solid. I
He
know.
doesn't
It's
care. He likes Justin Braun. He's forcing him into the lineup. Like that's what he's doing.
yeah, and it could be that they feel bad that they couldn't trade Justin Braun at trade deadline, and so
Oh,
they wanna
I
put
don't
him
know if
in
they feel
games,
bad.
but
I'm not even gonna go there. Like again, all of the damage control that's trying to go on from trade deadline, I'm bristling on that.
yeah, it's a little frustrating all around, I would say. Um, as far as, like, more into the game itself, I think that there was a little bit of added energy there. I think
Hmm.
there's a little bit of, okay, like everybody is dogging on us because of what management could or could not do.
Hmm.
So we're going to play with a little extra pep today. And I absolutely felt that in this one.
Hmm.
They need to have more finish. We've been talking about that, throughout the season, but I think there was a lot of like excellent chances taken. I think they had a lot better quality shots in this game than they normally have had in a game like this earlier
Hmm.
in the season. And so, there certainly was some good to it there.
Yeah, no question. There was definitely some good. So, let's talk a minute though about the handling of Owen Tippett. So I don't understand why John Tortorella has decided to open the floodgates on minutes and just bog the player down on minutes, 24 minutes, 27 minutes. I heard on the broadcast he doesn't even seem to be getting tired. You keep giving him 27 minutes, he'll be tired in another game or two. It doesn't make sense. I get that he was having some effectiveness out there. I went and started looking up real numbers after I heard on the broadcast he might be a 35 goal scorer someday. So right now, he's not even in like the top 40 for shooting percentage. He's at like 11.5, something like that, which is, his best. But again, nowhere near any player that is, considered a top scorer in the league or even close to that medium scorer in the league. And the part of that is um, those guys don't get 24 minutes, 27 minutes a game. They don't because they're not on teams that are willing to give them that. And again, there'll be a day like we've talked about where they won't be doing that with Tippett either. So there's that. So then I looked at shots, actual shots. He's not even in the top 50. He's not even there. So you can't score 35 goals if you're not in the top 50 in shots on goal. And he takes a lot of shots. Yes, we know that, but
Right.
he's still not hitting the net on a lot of shots. So I understand it's fine to get fans excited about what he looks like because he looks better than last year, but he's also 24. So to say that he has this massive ceiling is not correct either. He is learning, so I think he learned something from last year, but I don't think again there's nothing to tell me that his shot has gotten any more accurate because it really hasn't. He has just applied himself a little bit more. But again, if you're going to a player 24 minutes, 27 minutes a game, and you're not getting a goal every other game, then you're wasting those minutes. But the Flyers have those minutes to waste. So that's what I'm pointing out.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And one thing that I noticed in this game in particular with Owen Tippett is that he's trying to split the difference a little bit between, taking the puck and speeding up the ice that he can
Hmm.
do very well, and
Hmm.
then either trying to create a shot or waiting for his teammates to catch up who are always slower than him.
Yeah.
And so I think he's trying to do the waiting more to try and have more concrete plays, which may be something he's been coached to do. But I think that there's just this sort of split personality starting to
Hmm.
to show a little bit along those lines. And to me, I think, he should just take the shot. If his teammates aren't
Yes,
there,
that's if you're a goal scorer, you take the shot.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that, unless he's really not seeing anything out there, he really needs to take the shot more often, and he has the moves to be able to cut inside
Right.
when he wants to, especially, against a team like Detroit,
Yeah, whose
um,
defense is porous
who's
now.
exactly, exactly. So I would have liked to seen that a little bit more rather than waiting for his teammates to create more of a set play.
Yeah, and one last thing to it, even beyond the set play and all that, defensively, he's still a minus 16. There are positive plus players on this team, and he is not one of them. But Torts is letting him slide on the occasional gaffes defensively because he's showing him all this other stuff. So again, you have to understand that the coach is allowing some of this, like right now, the same way he was doing it with Konechny, because he's desperate for offense. He basically, one of his quotes post game was, "We're forechecking, and it's still not leading to goals."
Yeah,
And
ab-
and again,
absolutely.
this is going to be a battle between Torts, whoever the next GM is, whether it's Chuck or somebody else, and is this style of play going to make a team a winner in this era? Like, all of it has to be looked at.
Yeah. Well, Torres has a lot of work ahead of him for the remainder of this season to try and answer some questions. Chuck Fletcher also actually showed up at a season ticket holder
Hmm.
meeting on Saturday. So we're going to talk about those two things and how they might overlap a little bit coming up next.
Today's episode is sponsored by Athletic Greens. I started using Athletic Greens because I wanted better gut health, more energy, optimized immune system, and hated taking pills and vitamins. And I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all those things. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy free, or gluten free. Athletic Greens contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, or artificial anything while still tasting good. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million pills and vitamins to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
All right, Russ. So, aside from that game we had on Sunday, in the aftermath of the trade deadline inactivity, the Flyers had a scheduled season ticket holder town hall on Saturday, which unfortunately I could not attend. Yeah, I have my parents are season ticket holders and have access to those events, and I've gone to them before. But my mom reported back to me on it. She's
Of
always so
course.
nice about these things.
Friend of the
And
show.
friend of the show, mom. Um, you know, eh, they apparently the gist of it was repeating what he said at the presser, essentially, that there were some improvements this season, or there have been not as many clunker games as there were last year. Um, you know, that he did everything he could at trade deadline, but if you don't have willing partners, no, like you can't make the deals. And there were a lot more like direct questions. And as a side note, this is the forum for that. A season ticket holder event is where, like, if you are upset and you want to say something to the GM, this is where you say it. Like,
Right.
because it's a different framework than the media.
Well, I guess,
And so if you say, like, do you think you're the guy to do this, and how would you grade yourself, and all of that, that's a good thing for season ticket holders to directly challenge management at these sorts of events.
yeah. So, all right. So, first thing is we have to mention that Chuck Fletcher got booed. He did.
Hmm.
And I don't think anybody's surprised at that. Was Dave Scott there?
I don't know
Yeah.
that. I know
Somebody
Danny
asked
Briere
me,
was there.
yeah, somebody asked me online if they thought he would be there. And I said, no, I don't think he would be there. So it didn't sound like he was there. Um, okay. So with Chuck Fletcher, if people want to go listen to Off the Post, we spoke to Kevin Allen, and he talked about the Red Wings situation with the Flyers. And, one little thing I'll reveal from that is Chuck didn't even have to retain on that deal to make that deal. They were willing to take the salary whole. It was just a matter of what the offer was. So, again, you do have to wonder what the offer was. You do have to wonder why things happened so late in the day. You do have to wonder why things weren't put in place a week or 2 weeks before. You do have to wonder why finding a team to take it whole was going to be hard. So why didn't you have a willing third partner already lined up? So this way, when you called the team, you already knew what the third partner was looking for, and you could get this deal done quickly. I don't think any of those things were done, Rachel. They weren't talked about. So I have to
No.
believe they weren't done. So, again, this is a day where if you show up for, work that day and you're making calls, you why do players have why were players not wanted? Players were not wanted because of term and AAV. I tweeted about that a day or two before the deadline. Well, how did that get that way? Because of Chuck Fletcher. And also the organization signed off on that. So
Yep.
again, they kind of made their own bed with that. So, you can't expect teams to, just jump at these guys under those circumstances. So, like I said, go listen to the show. You can hear it from the Detroit side of things. It doesn't matter to me that Chuck Fletcher showed up and did what he was supposed to do, and it just didn't work out. Again, this is a results-based business. Doesn't matter that he's a
Yep.
nice guy. None of this matters. The results are failing. They're failing in a lot more areas than just the trade deadline, and that's what I think the organization has to come to grips with. And I also think that messaging is still really important. So it was nice that John Tortorella sent out those letters, this year.
Right.
But once he backed Chuck Fletcher the other day, fans did not want to hear it.
Yeah.
It was
It's
not a good.
absolutely true.
It's not a good day to back him. It wasn't.
Right. And, a direct quote from my mother's text to me during the town hall: Chuck, we need a change in attitude. It's going to take time. Mom, LOL. Like, it's, and he says, I understand your frustration and your anger. And it's like, the frustration and anger wouldn't be there if we could see the results of progress. Like, understanding that things take time is separate from seeing incremental results. And
Or
that's
just if they had a
yeah.
plan that was started a year ago and they're coming back on stage and saying, "All right, look, we're in
Look,
stage whatever of a plan." Right.
we got from point A to point B to point C.
Correct.
We got to get to point
Right.
Z, but look at this. Here's the
But
progress
but
and
the
here's the
fans don't
result.
even have a roadmap because,
No,
everything keeps
no.
changing. So that's the frustrating part for fans, and I get it. Like, I hear it, I see it. You have no idea how many messages and, DMs and everything I got on trade deadline day. It was incredible. And it was not only from fans, it was from other media members, it was from a lot of different people.
Yeah.
Everybody's watching Philly and everybody's watching it fail.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. And you look at some outside perspectives on it, like you said, from national media, some of the media in Toronto who are sort of at the hub of hockey
Mhm.
media, and they're scratching their heads. They're all scratching their heads wondering either A, what it'll take for the Flyers to get out of this, or B, why does Chuck Fletcher still have a job? Like, those are the two main questions being asked, and they're good ones. And I think that it's going to be an interesting few months for the team ahead. That's for sure. And I think that, at least from an outside perspective, if I'm management right now, I have to highlight some guys. Now, we talked about Owen Tippett and giving him
Yes,
too many minutes. I think they need to spread that out amongst
they
several different
do.
guys, and that's the main goal, right? Is getting the assets you think, because at the beginning of the season we said, oh, we need to evaluate talent for this year so that we know what to do in the off season. We
Right.
already know the answer to most of those questions. Now it's taking those guys that you've narrowed it down to, that you're like, yes, we want to keep these guys. You highlight them to their strengths, and you put them in some challenging situations gameplay wise to see how they react, and you just fine tune your evaluation of these guys. So
Like,
it's
they've
Owen
gone a whole
Tippett.
season without you can't even tell me one line combination that was, like, played
Mhm.
most of the year. You can't.
Right. And that's like, part of that is putting together lines of guys who you think you're gonna keep and keeping those people together and
Right.
seeing what chemistry you can build. That's a huge part of it as well.
And none of that has been built, honestly. It really hasn't. Yes, the team plays harder. Yes, they can do some things right like they did yesterday, but
You can get any group of guys to play harder.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and Torts has done that, but again, we don't have line combinations. Yes, there's shorthanded goals happening, but the Flyers are still like 20. They've slipped to like 24th in the penalty kill. So even that is uh, a weird situation. That the power play is still awful, by the way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again,
Well,
that's why I tell people it's
nobody
not a
scored a power play goal in yesterday's game on
no.
either team.
No, but that's why I'm telling you it's not a talent thing on the power play. It's a strategy thing because they've had guys go in and out of that power play with talent, without talent, whatever you want to say. So many different combinations. It still stinks. It has stunk all year. And again, a lot of times these things aren't even being talked about. So that's something where, again, in the last 19 games, that's where again, one of the evaluations that has to go on is also the coaching staff, and that doesn't
Yeah.
get talked about at all.
I mean, we have been talking about, taking a hard look at Rocky Thompson and the
Yeah,
job that he's done and say, is this somebody you want to keep in this coaching group for the next year,
yeah.
and I think that one of the things that could be done is to put some more different looks on the power play. Now, putting Risto net front is a choice, but
No,
I
but
don't
this is
think
an
that's not a long-term solution.
it's not any solution. This is something that
Yeah.
Torts has done in the past. He's found like the biggest guy in the team that has decent hands and said, "You go in front of the net." And I've seen it fail so many times, so many times.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot to talk about in really thinking about what this team should be doing in the next several months and who should be making those decisions. But in the meantime, we've got a week ahead of a bunch of really, I think, difficult opponents that we can maybe get some of the answers for, and we're going to talk about that with our nemesis of the week next. But today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories? Then you gotta try a Built Bar. My goal has been to eat a little healthier this year, but I don't want to compromise on taste, and Built Bar is just the right thing. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. And what makes them so good? Well, they're covered in 100% real chocolate and they come in unbelievably delicious flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. And what's even better is that they only have 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't have to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. And if you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie, batter, and churro. You can thank me later. Russ, obviously, our nemesis last week was the trade deadline, and appropriately so. And it turned out to be a worthy foe in our battle to try and get the Flyers back to some semblance of success. And I think, for me, this week is kind of letting that dust settle, like we've been talking about, and figuring out, okay, what does the rest of the season look like? And what should it look like in terms of like all those things we just talked about, in terms of highlighting the right players, putting the players in the right situations, trying to get some lines with chemistry that maybe you want to keep for next year, and and doing all of those little things to ride out the rest of the season to put yourself in the best position for the offseason?
I'll tell you what's frustrating for me. The nemesis is still these medical updates. Um, so the time frame for Travis Konechny is he's out for a while. Like, how does that help fans? Honestly, how does that help them connect with the team, know what's going on? Maybe they want to see him one more time this year. Do they think they can do it? Um, you know, Sean Couturier, oh, he's doing great. He's skating. What happened to the March? He was coming back in March. Well, I mean, all of this. It's like players don't know who's going to be in the lineup half the time now, especially after somebody gets hurt. So I think that's the most. I think that's the big nemesis for the rest of the year because I think it's going to get worse as far as reporting on that.
Yeah, I do think there has to be some slight changes. And this is not like the media team or like PR
No,
team. It's not
no,
on
no,
them.
no,
It's
no, no.
on management in terms of what they're saying should be revealed, right? And
Right.
how they're answering questions. I just want to make that clear.
Yes.
It has been very frustrating, I think, across the board. And I think that frankly, in this off season, we saw a new medical team come in. I think we're owed a status report on that new team and how the onboarding process went with them, and
Hmm.
have them talk directly and say, this is what the team looks like
This is
now.
what we
This is how
found. This is
this
what
is
we're
what
working on.
mhm,
Yeah, there's
you know
nothing to show confidence
right. And
right
so
now.
I would really hope that at the very least, at the end of the season, we get a full kind of report from them and what has been going on behind the scenes. Like, I think it's fair to some degree because like a new guy comes in, you want to really get the lay of the land and do some research into what's been happening. And you don't want to make that public along the way until you really go through it. So I can understand that, but I do think we're owed some answers in this off season. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, again, it's not only to write about, report about, but it's also for fans who are trying to follow the team. And it's hard to follow when, you
Hmm.
get these kinds of reports. And you
Exactly.
only get them like really, as an example, like with Sean Couturier, we got it at the trade deadline from Chuck, and it took 2 months for that report. And it was no clearer than when he said it 2 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, we've got a long road ahead and a difficult road ahead this week facing the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Canes, and the Pens. Now, tomorrow we are going to do our weekly Phantoms check-in. Some interesting things going on there as they really get hot and heavy into the playoff push for them. We also have a game against Tampa to preview. They got absolutely toasted by the Canes
Destroyed.
on Sunday, so I'm sure they're going to be looking to rebound.
Oh,
And
yeah.
against the Flyers may not be ideal for the Flyers, but it should be a good game nonetheless. And we'll preview that tomorrow. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So send in your mailbag questions via Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. Now make your second listen Game to Game NHL. It's every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. It's on the Locked On NHL feed wherever you get your podcasts. Have a great day.